Gareth sits anxiously in his room as his wife prepares to leave for work. She bids him farewell and departs, leaving him alone. He picks up his clock, adjusts the date to Friday the 13th, and methodically locks every door and window in the house. As he prepares his coffee, he calls Peggy from work, claiming he's unwell and won't be coming in today. He asks Peggy to inform Dean that he won't be coming in today. Gripped by fear, he tries to avoid anything that could bring bad luck, even going so far as to release his pet bird, Magpie, from the house. Settling into his chair, he turns on the radio, hoping to distract himself. Hearing the broadcast, he tries to call them. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. Instantly on edge, he switches off the radio and shuts the blinds, trying to make it seem like no one is home. However, a woman at the door peeks through one of the uncovered windows. She calls out, telling him she has a parcel for him. Gareth, still uneasy, asks her to leave it on the doorstep, but she explains that he needs to sign for it. Reluctantly, he cracks open the door, but when he tries to sign, the pen doesn't work. She doesn't have any spare pens. Frustrated yet desperate to get this over with, Gareth tells her to wait while he fetches one. He rummages through a drawer, unable to find a working pen. When he turns back, the woman has stepped inside his house uninvited. The woman asks to use the bathroom, insisting it's an emergency. Gareth hesitates, clearly uncomfortable, and tells her he can't let her in. But as she continues to plead, he finally relents, instructing her to be quick. As she heads to the bathroom, Gareth's phone rings. It's from the radio. He immediately launches into a rant explaining that, according to a study, the risk of hospitalization actually increases by 52% on Friday the 13th, before bluntly telling them to get their facts straight before broadcasting misinformation on the radio. From inside the bathroom, the woman suddenly calls out for Gareth. She tells him she can't open the door. The handle has broken. Concerned but still wary, Gareth tries to open it from the outside, but the door won't budge. Frustrated, he tells her to wait while he fetches a screwdriver. As he turns, a black cat has somehow entered the house. Panic sets in as the cat trots upstairs, ignoring his frantic attempts to shoo it away. Determined to get rid of it, Gareth follows the cat into the bedroom, where it hides under the bed. He crouches down, reaching to pull it out, but in his clumsy efforts, he accidentally injures himself. Gareth uses bait to lure the cat out from under the bed. As soon as it emerges, he drops a beanbag over it. However, he quickly notices that the beanbag is torn, and the cat has escaped into the bathroom. Determined to get rid of it, Gareth grabs the hand shower, aims it at the cat, and turns the water on, only to be soaked himself when the overhead shower activates instead. Drenched and fuming, he watches as the cat darts out of the bathroom and disappears downstairs. Grumbling, Gareth grabs a towel and heads after it, only to freeze when he sees a ladder resting against the railing, another omen of bad luck. Suddenly, a man named Barry Stiles enters the house, introducing himself as a locksmith. He informs Gareth that he owes him £80 as a call-out fee. Before Gareth can argue, Barry's phone rings, and he steps outside to take the call. Now alone, Gareth faces a dilemma. The ladder is blocking his way, and he's too superstitious to walk underneath it. Instead, he awkwardly tries to climb down by stepping onto a cabinet. Once safely on the ground, he removes the ladder, but as he does, his tie gets caught in it. Desperate, he grabs a pair of scissors and cuts the tie, finally breaking free. As Gareth tries to put the ladder away, he accidentally knocks down the horseshoe hanging above the door, a major bad luck omen in his eyes. Panicking, he quickly climbs the ladder to fix it. Just as he reaches up to reposition the horseshoe, Barry suddenly opens the door, causing the ladder to topple over. Before he can recover, Barry's granddaughter, Bethany, enters the house, followed by Barry's daughter-in-law, who needs to leave Bethany with him due to a performance commitment. Gareth, still rattled, looks up at the woman and immediately freezes in fear. She's wearing peacock feathers in her hair, another symbol of bad luck. His superstition-fueled anxiety intensifies as he stares at the offending feathers, visibly distressed. After Barry's daughter-in-law leaves, the woman trapped in the bathroom calls out again, asking if Gareth has found the screwdriver. She also casually mentions that his toilet flush is broken. Gareth finally locates the screwdriver. Barry takes it from him and begins working on the bathroom door himself. As Gareth watches, he notices Barry isn't wearing his shoes. His eyes dart around the room until he spots them, sitting on the table. Furious, Gareth snaps at Barry, scolding him for breaking yet another superstitious rule. Meanwhile, young Bethany is mindlessly pouring salt onto the table. Seeing this, Gareth grabs a pinch of salt, and immediately throws it over his shoulder, muttering that it wards off evil spirits. Bethany grabs a handful of salt and throws it directly at his face. Meanwhile, Barry finally manages to unlock the bathroom door. As it swings open, he notices that the woman inside had been trying to break out by unscrewing the mirror and using one of its screws to pry open the lock. Gareth, horrified, quickly grabs the mirror and insists that Barry screw it back in place, fearing that breaking a mirror would bring even worse luck. Just as Barry gets to work, Bethany mischievously slams the door shut from the outside, locking all of them inside. Barry sighs, unbothered, and casually informs them that they'll have to wait for his daughter-in-law to return. Gareth, now fuming, lashes out at both Barry and the woman, blaming them for bringing bad luck into his home. He insists that everything was fine until he opened the door. From that moment on, chaos followed. As tensions rise, Barry glances at his wrist and notices his watch has stopped at exactly 13 minutes past. Overcome with frustration, Gareth kicks the door open in a desperate bid for freedom. As he storms outside, he is met with an unexpected sight: his wife Dana, calmly sitting with Bethany, and a man Gareth doesn't recognize. The man introduces himself as Dr. Marcel Rogers, a therapist. He calmly reveals that everything that happened today was carefully orchestrated, a controlled exercise designed to help Gareth overcome his superstitions. Dr. Marcel Rogers continues to explain that the woman from the bathroom and the locksmith are actually his friends, Sue and Johnny Robbins, both actors, along with the daughter-in-law Shelley. All of them were part of the elaborate setup. Gareth listens in disbelief as Marcel reveals that he had been undergoing exposure therapy all along. Every event was carefully planned to force him into direct contact with his worst superstitions. Marcel explains that Gareth's fear of Friday the 13th had become so severe that it was controlling his life, and the only way to help him was to create a worst-case scenario, pushing him to face his fears head-on. Gareth, still reeling from the revelation, struggles to process the twisted but well-intentioned deception. Marcel continues, revealing that Bethany is actually his granddaughter. Gareth, furious and in disbelief, struggles to process the extent of the manipulation. The actors quietly exit the room, leaving him alone with Marcel and Dana. Marcel asks Gareth about the inciting incident that Dana had previously mentioned, the root cause of his fear. After a long pause, Gareth finally opens up. He recalls that on Friday, October 13th, 1978, he was on a school trip to France skiing in Le Corbière. That morning, he had woken up with a stomachache and didn't want to go out. He chose to stay behind while all his schoolmates boarded the coach and drove off without him. The coach skidded on black ice, veered off the road, and crashed. No one survived. Marcel listens intently before gently explaining that Gareth's deep-rooted fear isn't really about Friday the 13th. It's survivor's guilt. His mind has linked the date to tragedy, trapping him in an endless cycle of irrational fear. Dana, wanting to help, brings a mirror into the room and places it in front of Gareth. She urges him to smash it, a symbolic act to confront and break free from his fears. But Gareth refuses, visibly shaken. He can't do it. Marcel, determined to push him further, hands him a hammer and insists. Gareth finally swings the hammer and smashes the mirror. As the glass shatters, he sees the ghostly faces of his lost schoolmates. Suddenly, the doorbell rings. Dana opens the door to find representatives from the radio station standing there. They explain that when he had called earlier to fact-check them, he had unknowingly become their millionth caller. As a result, he has won a grand prize of £130,000. The radio team is excited, telling him they want to record a pre-interview before making the big announcement live on air. Gareth stands there, staring at them in disbelief. He suddenly wakes up. It was all a dream. He glances at his clock. Friday the 13th. Just then, his wife, Dana, arrives. Seeing his distressed state, she asks what's wrong. He tells her that he thought he had been cured, that he had gone through exposure therapy, but it all turned out to be just a dream. She corrects him, saying it isn't Friday, it's Saturday. Everything actually happened. She reminds him about the upcoming radio interview and tells him to come downstairs. She hands him a package, the same one from yesterday, and urges him to open it. Inside, he finds a bright yellow umbrella, another superstition he has always feared. His wife watches him expectantly, calling it his final test. After a moment of hesitation, he takes a deep breath and opens the umbrella indoors. Nothing happens. The tension breaks, and they both burst into laughter. The episode ends with Gareth sitting down, putting on his headphones and listening to the radio while a car slams into Dana outside. Please like and subscribe the channel for more videos like these.